Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, and we're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And as Donald Trump begins only his third day in office, we bring you the latest developments from the White House as well as other top stories from around the world that we're covering. But first, here's a look at the latest headlines. China says it will defend its national interests against Donald Trump's tariff threats after the newly inaugurated president threatened to impose a 10% import duty on Beijing by the end of next week. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz travels to Paris to meet French President Emmanuel Macron to hold bilateral talks as both European leaders struggle with politically tense situations domestically. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that at least 200,000 allied troops would be needed to enforce a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. This as Zelensky seeks a meeting with President Donald Trump to discuss a peace deal. Iraq's parliament passes amendments giving Islamic courts increased authority over family matters. Critics say the move would in effect legalize child marriages. And a rare winter storm blankets parts of Texas, including Houston, with record snowfall and leaves highways and streets eerily deserted. The U.S. Weather Service confirms the storm broke century-old snowfall records in the region. We begin in the United States after President Donald Trump declared a national emergency at the southern border on Monday. Authorities have now shut down the entry from Mexico. The CB1 app, which was introduced by former President Joe Biden and allowed asylum seekers to take appointments for entering the United States, has also been shut down. Migrants who already had appointments and were waiting for their interview have been left stranded in Mexico. At least 2,000 migrants are currently waiting in a border town just a few miles away from the United States. And without any legal protection from Mexican or American authorities, the migrants are facing attacks and kidnappings from criminal gangs.
Even here, right here in Juarez, the criminals caught the migrants in a place. I don't remember where, and they extorted them. They took $1,400 from each one in the family. So as we have limited resources, it is an amount. They asked for a lot. So some have been injured, others did not make it. Others have disappeared, and others have had the opportunity and the privilege to be able to hand the money. That is, they have been victims of extortion and kidnapping.
Meanwhile, Border Patrol officials in Texas have increased their vigilance after the executive order was in fact signed. They also placed a new set of buoys on the American side of the Rio Grande River to prevent any illegal crossings. Meanwhile, Mexico prepares to receive mass deportations under the Trump administration as President Claudia Sheinbaum calls for international support.
This has
nothing to do with safe third country and all of that, but this is a declaration by the U.S. government. What do we do about it? Well, we act in a humanitarian manner and, in accordance with our foreign policy, our immigration policy, we seek the repatriation of these people to their countries of origin, if they are not Mexican. Now, it is important to note here that far fewer migrants are arriving at the northern border than were arriving even at that time because of the comprehensive humanitarian policy that we have been implementing to prevent people from arriving at the northern border.
Now, President Trump has repeatedly promised to deport illegal migrants back to their home countries, which has soured relations between Washington and the host countries of the migrants. However, India has reportedly agreed to take back almost 18,000 nationals who immigrated to the United States illegally. Now, this comes after Secretary of State Marco Rubio met his Indian counterpart Jaishankar in Washington, making it the secretary's first high-level bilateral after taking office. The meeting also underscores the importance of the U.S.-India relationship. India Prime Minister Narendra Modi is known to have close ties with President Trump, often calling each other friends. And the latest move to repatriate illegal Indian migrants could be New Delhi's signal of wanting to forge a deeper relationship with the Trump administration. And staying with President Trump, the administration's decision to only recognize two genders has sparked a fierce debate on social media. With just one executive order on Monday, the commander-in-chief designated millions of transgender citizens in the U.S. as pretenders.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
MAGA supporters backing Donald Trump's decision are clashing with trans rights activists who call the executive order a step backwards for a progressive nation. And caught in the crossfire are celebrities like Caitlyn Jenner, who is a transgender woman but has celebrated the Republicans' return to the White House. Soon after Donald Trump took the oath of office on Monday, the Olympic gold medalist turned reality TV star congratulated the new president. However, Jenner's social media post was met with criticism, with her followers reminding her of Trump's agenda for transgender people. Netizens called the 75-year-old dumb and delusional and mocked her by saying Trump just ordered the government to call her Bruce. Notably, Caitlyn Jenner was originally known as Bruce Jenner, but she transitioned in 2015. She voted for Donald Trump in the 2016 presidential election, but later became a fierce critic. And over the years, Jenner has changed her stance on President Trump. In fact, during the November presidential election, Jenner posted a picture of her ballot marked for the president. Trump's anti-trans order will now require the federal government to use the term sex instead of gender. It will also direct federal agencies to classify people by biological sex on government IDs like personal documents, passports, and visas. The federal government will also be ordered to stop interpreting sex discrimination laws in ways that protect trans people. And the order also prevents taxpayers' funds from being used for gender-affirming treatments and mandates privacy in intimate spaces.
These are just people trying to live their lives, right? They're just trying to live their best life. And that if I can be part of doing that and helping them get to that point, then ultimately they become happier, more productive people. And that's really what we should all be wanting for everybody.
Now, while the decree is expected to be challenged in court, it makes one thing crystal clear. President Trump's war on the LGBTQ plus community and diversity programs has begun, threatening America's culture of social inclusivity. And now moving to South America, Colombia has sent its special forces to guerrilla-controlled areas near the Venezuelan border. This after a recent surge in violence killed over 100 people and displaced more than 20,000. The fresh wave of violence has hit the Catatumbo region, a mountainous area in northeastern Colombia. Last week, two rebel groups, the National Liberation Army, or the ELN, and factions of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or the FARC, began fighting. While they maintained a truce in the strategic border region for quite some time, the two groups clashed over dominance over cocoa plantations and drug smuggling routes just last Thursday. Reports say the conflict turned deadly when the ELN rebels accused civilians of helping their rivals and executed some in their homes. However, the ELN group has instead accused the FARC rebels of murdering civilians.
Yes, some bodies have not yet been recovered. We are trying to locate them with funeral homes that are working on it. And there is the issue of security. There is a fear among the community, a fear that is generating all the displacements. We need to strengthen security in order to have our lives in our municipalities.
The spiraling violence forced the Colombian government to declare a state of emergency and deploy 5,000 troops in the region.
A big disaster there. People kicking us out, that was ugly. Bullets and all that stuff. Ugly, ugly.
Where exactly do you come from?
From La Guabara. They took us out of there in a truck this morning.
Who came?
A few. The people from there were scared. They couldn't do anything. They left what they could and took what they could and fled.
Colombian President Gustavo Petro has also suspended peace talks with the ELN, accusing the rebel group of war crimes. Thousands of residents in the border region have now fled their homes, leaving ghost towns and seeking shelter in neighboring Venezuela.
It's complicated because you could hear the shots when they faced each other and all that, I think, among themselves. I didn't see it, but I heard it. One doesn't see, but hears the disaster, right? Then that stuff alters you, and then out of respect for life, because you only have one life, the best thing is to flee.
Now, according to the United Nations, 30 people have been kidnapped, including 3 government officials who were part of the peace talks between the Colombian government and the ELN. And while Colombia's army has rescued dozens of people, at least 1,000 remain trapped in their homes, hoping the violence will end soon. And next we head to Chile's capital, Santiago, and what should have been a routine stay turned into a spine-chilling nightmare for pop sensation Dua Lipa. During her time at a luxury hotel to film a commercial, a group of fans managed to slip past security to get a glimpse of the star and were found lurking just outside her bedroom door. What should have been a glamorous hotel stay quickly transformed into a horrifying reminder of the dark side of fame, which has left Dua Lipa shaken by the terrifying intrusion. We have more from Santiago.
Fame may look like a glittery dream on Instagram, but for pop star Dua Lipa, her recent trip to Chile was a chilling reminder that the road to stardom is occasionally paved with terrifying fan encounters. What began as a luxury hotel stay quickly turned into the set of a B-grade thriller, starring overzealous fans, a rattled pop star, and hotel security doing their best impression of a bad heist movie cleanup crew. Staying at the 5-star Ritz-Carlton, the singer was in Chile to film a commercial, though it seems no one told her that the shoot would double as a live-action remake of Mission Impossible. A gaggle of fans managed to infiltrate her hotel floor. They breezed past hotel security like it was an open house. Several superfans were found loitering right outside her bedroom door, presumably hoping for an impromptu meet and greet or at least a blurry selfie. According to reports, things were manic as Dua Lipa touched down. Fans were desperate to see her. A group gained access not only to her floor, but were also found outside her room. Cue an emergency security sweep because, surprise, surprise, there were even more fans lying in wait near the elevators. The singer was unharmed during the incident. However, she was left terrified and shaken by the intrusion. Naturally, the levitating singer decided hotel photo ops were off the table. Because who wouldn't want a break after hosting an unplanned fan convention in their hallway? Despite the high-octane drama, the singer managed to make the most of her trip. With a tequila-fueled night out, she was accompanied with her glam squad, including makeup artist Katie Jane Hughes and stylist Olivia Moss. Naturally, she chronicled the escapade for her Instagram followers. It's almost as if she's telling the rogue fans, "You may have crashed my hotel, but you can't crash my vibe." If this ordeal sounds oddly familiar, it's because Dua Lipa seems to have a knack for attracting boundary-blurring admirers. Last year, a TikTok-loving fan managed to crash her Glastonbury rehearsal in Birmingham. It forced the pop star to pause mid-prep. Apparently, some fans missed the memo that levitating isn't an actual access pass to private spaces. Dua Lipa's Santiago scare is the perfect cautionary tale about the perils of pop stardom and the lengths fans will go to for a selfie. While she's prepping for her Radical Optimism tour in March, her security team is likely brushing up on their Keep the Pop Star Safe protocols. As for the fans, maybe it's time to revisit the unwritten rule of celebrity worship. adore from a distance, and leave the Ritz-Carlton shenanigans to the movies.
And finally, from Colorado, in a jaw-dropping move that has animal rights activists scratching their heads, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that 5 elephants at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo can't sue for their freedom because they're not human. Now, despite these legal hiccups, animal activists are not backing down. In fact, they're continuing their fight to prove that elephants might just deserve a little more than a lifetime behind bars, or in this case, a zoo fence. While the court focused on the legal distinction between humans and animals, the debate around their captivity continues to spark outrage and even concern. Here's our final report on the humanity of elephants.
Elephants have long been admired for their intelligence and grandeur. It has earned them the title of majestic. But when it comes to the law, these towering creatures aren't quite human enough to have their day in court. In a ruling that left animal advocates shaking their heads, the Colorado Supreme Court recently decided that the elephants of Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, despite their impressive qualities, don't have the legal right to seek freedom from their captivity. The case revolves around 5 elephants at the zoo: Missy, Kimba, Lucky, Lulu and Jambo. They were born in the wild but spent most of their lives in captivity. The Non-Human Rights Project, an animal advocacy group, argued that these elephants, like humans, deserve the right to challenge their confinement and be released to an elephant sanctuary. The group claims that living in the zoo is harmful to these highly intelligent animals, and they should be allowed to roam freely in an environment better suited to their natural needs. But the Colorado Supreme Court wasn't convinced. In a decision that seemed to overlook the intellectual and emotional needs of the tuskers, the court ruled that because elephants aren't legally classified as people, they have no standing to bring a habeas corpus claim. This is a petition that asks the court to order the release of a person who's being detained illegally. The ruling, while emphasizing that the animals are indeed majestic, boiled down to a simple conclusion: elephants do not have the same legal rights as humans. This isn't the first time the freedom of elephants has been rejected. In 2022, the New York Court of Appeals also ruled against the release of Happy, an elephant at the Bronx Zoo, following a similar argument made by the Non-Human Rights Project. While legal battles rage on in the world's oldest democracy, it is worth noting that elephants in other parts of the world live a more comfortable life. In countries like Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Kenya, Zimbabwe and Thailand, elephants coexist with humans in ways that blend cultural significance with more natural, freer environments. These elephants are often part of wildlife conservation programs or cultural traditions that allow them to roam and interact with other elephants. In these countries, elephants are not just seen as majestic creatures to be admired from behind bars, but as living beings that deserve space, companionship and dignity. While the fight for the release of elephants from captivity continues, it remains clear that the legal system has a long way to go in recognizing these animals as beings worthy of rights. Whether or not elephants will ever receive legal personhood is uncertain. But one thing is for sure: the conversation around animal rights, their freedom, and the treatment of these majestic creatures will continue to evolve. Until then, it seems the battle for Missy, Kimba, Lucky, Lulu and Jambo is far from over.
That's our show for today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again everyone for watching.